युद्ध कहीं केला
इट इज ए डिजाइंड वार पर्यंत ईरान पावरफुल रही इजराइल की गोटे एक्जिस्टेंशियल थ्रेट रही ऑक्युपाइड वेस्ट बैंक ऑक्युपाइड गाजा दीज आर द कॉन्सेप्ट्स इंटरनेशनल कम्युनिटी आकु आराम से नहीं जाऊ
कहीं
नवेम्बर 1095 जो दिन इन फ्रांस पोप अर्बन द सेकेंड गोटे क्रुसेड रा डाकरा देथिले तीनटा रिलीजियस ट्रेडिशन जहार की सोर्स गोटिए जुडाइज्म क्रिश्चियनिटी एंड इस्लाम
सब अब्राहमिक
अब्राहम रु ही ये तीनटा रिलीजन बाहरी बर्तमान भाई भाई भीतर कंदल लगी इस्लाम वाज द लेटेस्ट ऑफ द रिलीजन्स इजराइल स्टेट क्रिएशन पर एते पावरफुल कर दिया गला इजराइल की इट बिकम ए डोमिनेंट स्टेट इजराइल मना कर दिला पैलेस्टाइनियन आइडेंटिटी की मानिबा पई
इजराइल सेंस ऑफ इनसिक्योरिटी सेटा मंजी हला ये पूरा युद्ध पाई
इट्स ए लॉन्ग ड्रॉन हिस्टोरिकल प्रोसेस
माने गोटे बापार तीन पुओ दी भाई गोटे साइड रे
गेले नाउ द
आ गोटे भाई
that is the entire concept after creation of Israel Iran was the supporter of Israel आज जो न्यूक्लियर वेपन प्रोग्राम को एलिमिनेट करिया पे चाहूची यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स इट स्टार्टेड इन 1967 बाय द यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स इनिशिएटिव कॉल्ड द तेहरान रिसर्च रिएक्टर
आइठो आगु को हम कथा बढ़िया डोनाल्ड ट्रम्प एक कथा सब बुझंती
ही डजंट अंडरस्टैंड एनीथिंग वेस्ट एशिया ईरान रो राइज की कैनॉट बी प्रिवेंटेड to prevent Iran from acquiring nuclear weapon is the objective that's not the real objective
बहुत गुडे इस्लामिक रिजिम अछि
yes
केते जन को आपण हटेबे इट्स अनरियलिस्टिक
that is the point शक्तिशाली देशर प्रेसिडेंट is acting like a hired goon kidnap करिवा is not a civilized gentleman's activity
अमेरिका रे पूर्वरो आ कोनोसी राष्ट्रपति एंती करथिले
no you tell me nobody
राजनेता व्यवसायी गुंडा
right now he is behaving like a goon United States होची एभली गोटे महाशक्ति विश्व इतिहास रे जे कोनोसी युद्ध जितिनी so he wants to leave a legacy सब बेले क्लेम करछन मु 8टा युद्ध बंद कर देली 9टा युद्ध बंद कर देली
मु युद्ध बंद करले
he claims that India Pakistan war which I think he did
आपन लागे जे इंडिया पाकिस्तान रो ऑपरेशन सिंदूर जहा घटितला जो वार चलथिला ताकू सी अटके देला
of course so that was an unnecessary war to begin with
बट गोटे ग्रहणीयता भी होनी जे पाकिस्तान रो कोन से क्षमता अछि
ने इट इज डिक्लेयर्ड इट देयर इज नथिंग हिडन इन दिस इट अमेरिकन्स यूज पाकिस्तान
ईरान ने बे डिसीजन के नउजे
यस देयर गवर्नमेंट इज इन प्लेस या जदी इजराइल से जाउची दैट इज नॉट नेसेसरीली इट इज गोइंग विथ अरब वॉर
मिडिल ईस्ट रे परिस्थिति भयंकर आ परिस्थिति भितर आपण मन को मो मन को सब बेले से गोटे प्रश्न आसुची जे परिस्थिति एमती हैला काहेकि सब किछि ठीक थिला सब किछि गोटे शांति दिगरे जाउथला ताहले अचानक विश्व रे आमे ए किछि वर्ष लानी देखलेनी जे खाली युद्ध होउची और से युद्ध मिडिल ईस्ट रे जो पर्याय रे वर्तमान पहुंची छी तार इंपैक्ट आपण को घरे मो घरे भी पड़िबा आरंभ हलानी एबे कमर्शियल गैस रो रेट भी बढ़ी गला आप देखुन जे प्रति मासरे बढ़ुची प्रति सप्ताह किसी ना किसी सेमती खबर आसुची पेट्रोल को नहीं डीजेल को नहीं गैस को नहीं जहाज आसी पारुनी हरमुज प्रणाली दे तो प्रकृत रे ये जो क्राइसिस हेची बा आपण ताकू कहि परिबे जो युद्ध र घनघटा छाईची ये हेची काहेकि विषय जानिबा पई समस्त भितर बड़ उत्कंठा भी अच्छी जे प्रकृत रे हेची कोन बहुत किछि खबर आसुची जो खबर को विश्वास न भी करा जाई पारे बहुत किछि खबर आसुची जो थरे बहुत भ्रमात्मक तथ्य भी रहउची किंतु विश्लेषण करी हमको सब खबर को बाछि बाछि देखिया पई पड़िबो ए समय भितरे प्रकृत रे घटुची कोन आ प्रकृत रे कोटा मिथ्या प्रचार होउची ए विषय रे आज आमे विश्लेषण करबा आज आमे बुझिया पई चेष्टा करबा सेति पई ओटी पॉडकास्ट रे एथरो आम सहित अछंती वैदेशिक व्यापार विशेषज्ञ एडवोकेट डॉक्टर बिनोद मिश्र स्वागत होटी पॉडकास्ट को आपन को प्रथम प्रश्न एवं बहुत बेसिक प्रश्न जे युद्ध काहे केला
सुनंदु सब बेले कह जाए युद्ध हूँ गोटे शेष ऑप्शन जेकोसी गोटे समस्या को समाधान करने युद्ध हूँ गोटे शेष ऑप्शन किंतु यही युद्धटा वेरी अनफॉर्चुनेटली इट इज ए डिजाइन्ड वार दीटा लोक डिसाइड कले दैट दे विल हैव ए वार विथ ईरान से तो युद्ध करेंगे से दीटा लोक किए ନା ଇସ୍ରାଏଲ ପ୍ରାଇମ୍ ମିନିଷ୍ଟର ବେଞ୍ଜାମିନ୍ ନେତାନ୍ୟାହୁ ଆଣ୍ଡ ଆମେରିକାନ୍ ପ୍ରେସିଡେଣ୍ଟ ଡୋନାଲ୍ଡ ଟ୍ରମ୍ପ। ଯଦି ଆପଣ ଦେଖିବେ ଯୁଦ୍ଧର ପ୍ରକୃତ କାରଣ ଯଦି ଜାଣିବା ପାଇଁ ଚାହିଁବେ, ପ୍ରକୃତ କାରଣ ହେଉଛି ଇସ୍ରାଏଲ ବା ବେଞ୍ଜାମିନ୍ ନେତାନ୍ୟାହୁଙ୍କର ଗୋଟେ ସେନ୍ସେସନ୍ ଅଫ୍ ନେକେଡନେସ୍ରୁ ସେ ସଫର କରନ୍ତି। ସେ ସେନ୍ସେସନ୍ ଅଫ୍ ନେକେଡନେସ୍ଟା କ'ଣ ନା ସେ ଭାବନ୍ତି ଯେ ଯେପର୍ଯ୍ୟନ୍ତ ଇରାନ ପାୱାରଫୁଲ୍ ରହିଛି, ଇସ୍ରାଏଲ କି ଗୋଟେ ଏକ୍ଜିଷ୍ଟେନ୍ସିଆଲ ଥ୍ରେଟ୍ ରହିଛି। କୋଉଠୁ ଏକ୍ଜିଷ୍ଟେନ୍ସିଆଲ ଥ୍ରେଟ୍ଟା ଏମାନେଟ୍ କରୁଛି ନା ଏମାନେଟ୍ କରୁଛି ଫ୍ରମ୍ ଦ ମୁସଲିମ୍ସ, ଯେଉଁମାନେ ପାଲେଷ୍ଟାଇନିଆନ୍ କଜ୍ ସହିତ ନିଜକୁ ଯୋଗ କରନ୍ତି ଏବଂ ପାଲେଷ୍ଟାଇନିଆନ୍ କଜ୍କୁ ପ୍ରମୋଟ୍ କରିବା ପାଇଁ ଚେଷ୍ଟା କରନ୍ତି। ଯଥା ଇସ୍ରାଏଲ ଏବଂ ପାଲେଷ୍ଟାଇନ୍ ରିଜିୟନର ଭେରି ଇମିଡିଏଟ୍ ନେବର୍ସ ସଚ୍ ଆଜ୍ ଲେବାନନ, ସିରିଆ, ଏଇ ଦୁଇଟା କଣ୍ଟ୍ରି ବେସିକାଲି ଇରାକ, ଇଭେନ୍ ଇରାନ। ଏବଂ ଏଇ ଯେଉଁ ଇସଲାମିକ୍ ଥ୍ରେଟ୍ଟା ରହିଛି ଇସ୍ରାଏଲ ଆଇଡେଣ୍ଟିଟି କି, এইটাকু আজ এ লিডর অফ দ্য ইসলামিক ওয়ার্ল্ডর লিডর হিসাবে, কারণ ইরান বাই ডিন্ট অফ ইটস সিয়ার সাইজ অ্যান্ড ইকোনমিক ক্যাপাবিলিটি ন্যাচুরালি ইজ দ্য লিডর অফ ইসলামিক ওয়ার্ল্ড ইন ওয়েস্ট এশিয়া। তেণু ইরান ইজ সপোর্টিং দিস রেজিস্টেন্স টু দ্য ইসরাଏଲିଜ୍ কি କାହିଁକି ରେଜିଷ୍ଟ କରୁଛନ୍ତି ନା ଇସ୍ରାଏଲର ଗଠନ ହେବା ପରେ 1948ରେ ଯେତେବେଳେ officially Israel was created, it was not as big as it is today. ତାପରେ କ'ଣ ହେଇଛି ନା ଇସ୍ରାଏଲିଜ୍ slowly they started occupying. ଆପଣ ଶୁଣୁଥିବେ occupied West Bank, occupied Gaza. These are the concepts international community ଆକୁ ଆରାମସେ ନେଇଯାଉଛି, occupied West Bank. So ଏଇ ଯେଉଁ ଅକୁପେସନ୍ ଚାଲିଲା ଇସ୍ରାଏଲର ଇନ୍ ପାଲେଷ୍ଟାଇନିଆନ୍ ଲ୍ୟାଣ୍ଡ, ସେଇଠୁ ହିଁ ମୂଳ କନ୍ଦଳଟା ଆରମ୍ଭ ହେଇଛି।
ଗୋଟେ ପ୍ରଶ୍ନ, ଆପଣ କହିଲେ ୱେଷ୍ଟର୍ଣ୍ଣ ୱାର୍ଲଡଟାକୁ ବଡ଼ ସହଜରେ ନେଇଯାଉଛି,
ୟେସ୍
କାହିଁକି?
ୟେସ୍, କାରଣ ଏଇ ଅକୁପେସନ୍ଟା ହେଉଛି ଗୋଟେ ୱେଷ୍ଟର୍ଣ୍ଣ ଡିଜାଇନ୍। ଏ ଡିଜାଇନ୍ଟା ଏବେକାର ନୁହେଁ, ଇଏ ଡିଜାଇନ୍ଟା ଆରମ୍ଭ ହେଇଛି ଇନ୍ ଇଟ୍ସ ମିଲିଟାଣ୍ଟ ଆଣ୍ଡ ପ୍ରୋଆକ୍ଟିଭ୍ ନେଚର୍ରେ। ପର୍ଟିକୁଲାରଲି ଯଦି ଡେଟ୍ ମେନସନ୍ କରିବା ପାଇଁ ଯିବା ତାହେଲେ ନଭେମ୍ବର 1095 ଯେଉଁଦିନ ଇନ୍ ଫ୍ରାନ୍ସ ପୋପ୍ ଅର୍ବାନ୍ ଦ ସେକେଣ୍ଡ ଗୋଟେ କ୍ରୁସେଡର ଡାକରା ଦେଇଥିଲେ ଟୁ ଲିବରେଟ୍ ଜେରୁଜାଲମ୍ from the clutches control of the Muslims. ସେବେଠାରୁ ଆରମ୍ଭ ହେଇଛି ଅକୁପାଇଂ ଜେରୁଜାଲମ୍ ଆଣ୍ଡ ଦ୍ୟାଟ୍ ଲ୍ୟାଣ୍ଡ ଅଫ୍ ଇସ୍ରାଏଲ। ସେବେଠାରୁ ଆରମ୍ଭ ହେଇଛି ଏ ଇନିସିଏଟିଭ୍। 8ଟା କ୍ରୁସେଡ୍ 1095ରୁ 1292 ପର୍ଯ୍ୟନ୍ତ 8 ଥର ଦ ୟୁରୋପିଆନ୍ ଖ୍ରୀଷ୍ଟିଆନ୍ସ ହାଭ୍ ଟ୍ରାଏଡ୍। ତା ଭିତରେ କନଫ୍ଲିକ୍ଟସ୍ ବି ରହିଛି, ଖ୍ରୀଷ୍ଟିଆନ୍ସ ଆଣ୍ଡ ଜୁଡାଇଜମ୍ ତାଙ୍କ ଭିତରେ କନଫ୍ଲିକ୍ଟ ବି ରହିଛି। ଅଲ୍ଟିମେଟଲି ଜିନିଷଟା ହେଉଛି ଆପଣଙ୍କୁ ଚିନ୍ତା କରିବା ପାଇଁ ପଡ଼ିବ 3ଟା ଟ୍ରାଡିସନ୍, ବେସିକାଲି ଇଟ୍ସ ଏ ରିଲିଜିୟସ୍ କନଫ୍ଲିକ୍ଟ। 3ଟା ରିଲିଜିୟସ୍ ଟ୍ରାଡିସନ୍ ଯାହାର କି ସୋର୍ସ ଗୋଟିଏ। 3ଟା ରିଲିଜିୟସ୍ ଟ୍ରାଡିସନ୍ କ'ଣ କ'ଣ? ଜୁଡାଇଜମ୍, ଖ୍ରୀଷ୍ଟିଆନିଟି ଆଣ୍ଡ ଇସଲାମ।
ସବୁ ଆବ୍ରାହମିକ୍,
ସବୁ ଆବ୍ରାହମରୁ ହିଁ ଏ 3ଟା ରିଲିଜିୟନ୍ ବାହାରିଛି। ତେଣୁ ଅଲ୍ ଆର୍ କଲ୍ଡ ଆବ୍ରାହମିକ୍ ଟ୍ରାଡିସନ୍ସ, ଆବ୍ରାହମିକ୍ ରିଲିଜିୟନ୍ସ। ନା ଏମାନଙ୍କର ଇଟ୍ସ ଲାଇକ୍ ଦେୟାର ବ୍ରଦର୍ସ। ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ଭାଇ ଭିତରେ କନ୍ଦଳ ଲାଗିଛି କି ବାପାର ଜାଗା ଉପରେ କାହାର କର୍ତ୍ତୃତ୍ୱ ରହିବ, କାହାର କଣ୍ଟ୍ରୋଲ ରହିବ। ନ୍ୟାଚୁରାଲି ଯେତେବେଳେ ଇସଲାମ ୱାଜ୍ ଦ ଲେଟେଷ୍ଟ ଅଫ୍ ଦ ରିଲିଜିୟନ୍ସ, ଆଉ ସେଇ ଜାଗାରୁ ହିଁ ବାହାରିଲା, ତେଣୁ ସେଇ ଜାଗାରେ ପ୍ରଥମେ ଇସଲାମ ସ୍ପ୍ରେଡେଡ୍ ଇନ୍ ଦ୍ୟାଟ୍ ରିଜନ୍। ସୋ ଖ୍ରୀଷ୍ଟିଆନ୍ସ ଫେଲ୍ଟ ଥ୍ରେଟେଣ୍ଡ। ସୋ ସେମାନେ ଚାହିଁଲେ ଏଟାକୁ ଅକୁପାଏ କରିନେବା ପାଇଁ। ଦେ କୁଡଣ୍ଟ, ମାନେ 8ଟା କ୍ରୁସେଡ୍ରେ 200 ବର୍ଷ ଚେଷ୍ଟାରେ ବି ଦେ କୁଡଣ୍ଟ। ଫାଇନାଲି ଦେ ସକ୍ସିଡେଡ୍ through this Zionist movement ଯୋଉଟା ଚାଲିଲା 19th centuryରେ। we'll discuss on that. Zionism movement ଆରମ୍ଭ ହେଲା। ତାପରେ ସେକେଣ୍ଡ ୱାର୍ଲଡ ୱାର୍ ପରେ ଯେତେବେଳେ ୟୁନାଇଟେଡ୍ କିଙ୍ଗଡମ୍ ଆଣ୍ଡ ୟୁନାଇଟେଡ୍ ଷ୍ଟେଟ୍ସ with the background of Holocaust, ଗୋଟେ emotionally charged environment ଥିଲା, and lot of sympathies were toward the Jews, ଯାହାଙ୍କୁ କି ହିଟଲର tried to exterminate through gas chamber। ତ ସେଇ ମାହୋଲରେ ଇସ୍ରାଏଲ ଷ୍ଟେଟ୍ର କ୍ରିଏସନ୍ ହେଲା। ଇସ୍ରାଏଲ ଷ୍ଟେଟ୍ର କ୍ରିଏସନ୍ ପରେ ଏତେ ପାୱାରଫୁଲ୍ କରିଦିଆଗଲା ଇସ୍ରାଏଲ କି that it became not only a state, it became a dominant state and it tried to capture as much land as it could. And এই যে process of capturing land had two impacts. One, it alienated land of Palestinians. Secondly, the entire Palestinian identity became vulnerable. It became endangered. Israel ମନା କରିଦେଲା Palestinian identity କି ମାନିବା ପାଇଁ। Now you can imagine, in the land of Palestine there is an Israel state but no Palestine state. So ସେଇଟା ହେଉଛି କନ୍ଦଳ। And Israel state is increasingly expanding into the Palestinian land. So naturally you would expect
ଯଦି ଆମେ ପୁରା ସିଧା ବ୍ରେକଡାଉନ୍ କରି ସରଳ ଭାଷାରେ କହିବା ଇସ୍ରାଏଲର ସେନ୍ସ ଅଫ୍ ଇନସିକ୍ୟୁରିଟି ଯୋଉଟା ଥିଲା ଇରାନ ପରିପ୍ରେକ୍ଷୀରେ ତା ଭିତରେ ଯୋଉ ଇନସିକ୍ୟୁରିଟି ଥିଲା ସେଇଟା ମଞ୍ଜି ହେଲା ଇଏ ପୁରା ଯୁଦ୍ଧ ପାଇଁ।
yes,
କିନ୍ତୁ ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ କଥା ବି ଆପଣ କହିଲେ ସେ ବାବଦରେ ମୁଁ ଚାହିଁବି ଯେ ଆପଣ ଟିକେ ଆମ ଦର୍ଶକଙ୍କୁ ବୁଝେଇକିରି କୁହନ୍ତୁ ଯେ କ୍ରୁଶବିଦ୍ଧ ଜେଜସ୍ କ୍ରାଇଷ୍ଟକୁ ୟହୁଦୀଙ୍କ ତରଫରୁ ଯୋଉ କଥା କୁହାଯାଏ ଯେ କରାଯାଇଥିଲା ଯାହା କିଛି ଘଟିଥିଲା ତାହେଲେ ସଫ୍ଟ କର୍ଣ୍ଣର ପୁଣି ତାଙ୍କ ପ୍ରତି ରହିଲା କେମିତି ମାନେ ଖ୍ରୀଷ୍ଟିଆନିଟି ଆଉ ୟହୁଦୀଙ୍କ ଭିତରେ ଇସ୍ରାଏଲ ଯୋଉମାନଙ୍କୁ ନେଇକିରି ବନିଛି
yes.
ତାହେଲେ ବନିଲା କେମିତି?
yes, ଏ ଯୋଉ 8ଟା ଯୋଉ କ୍ରୁସେଡ୍ ମୁଁ କହିଲି 200 years ତା ଭିତରେ କିଛି କ୍ରୁସେଡ୍ସ ଏମିତି ବି ହେଇଛି ଯୋଉଠି ଦ ଖ୍ରୀଷ୍ଟିଆନ୍ସ ଆଣ୍ଡ ଦ Jews they have fought against each other. It's a long drawn historical process. କିନ୍ତୁ ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ once there is an interest convergence between the Christians and the Jews against the Muslims. Because as the Muslim civilization started asserting, ଯେତେବେଳେ ସେମାନେ ବି prosperous ହେଲେ ସେମାନେ they started asserting, ତାପରେ there is a convergence. Now we can't remain divided. The Jews and the Christians they got
ମାନେ ଗୋଟେ ବାପାର ତିନି ପୁଅ ଦି ଭାଇ ଗୋଟେ ସାଇଡ୍ ରେ ହେଇଗଲେ
now the
ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ଭାଇ
that is the entire concept. ତେଣୁ ଠିକ ଅଛି ଏଇ ଏପର୍ଯ୍ୟନ୍ତ ବି ଠିକ ଥିଲା ତାପରେ ଇସ୍ରାଏଲ ଷ୍ଟେଟ ର ଗଠନ ପରେ ଇରାନ ଯେହେତୁ ଇରାନ was the primary threat being the biggest country ଇରାନ କୁ co-opt କରାଗଲା. If you recall the history after creation of Israel ଯେତେବେଳେ 48 ରେ create କରାଗଲା Iran was the supporter of Israel. The Iranian government was co-opted by the Western powers, particularly by United States, West Germany, France, and these were the countries. आज जो न्यूक्लियर वेपन प्रोग्राम को एलिमिनेट करने पे चाहूँची United States, you would be surprised to know it started in 1967 by the United States initiative called the Tehran Research Reactor. तापरे West Germany contributed the Isfahan reactor. So एମାନେ सब contribute କରିଥିଲେ. So Iran was basically an Western
ଖାଲି ଗୋଟେ ବଡ଼ ଏଇଠୁ ଆଗକୁ ଆମେ କଥା ବଢ଼ିଆ ଖାଲି ଗୋଟେ ଇଣ୍ଟରେଷ୍ଟିଂ କ୍ୱେଶ୍ଚିନ୍ ମନକୁ ଆସୁଛି ଆଚ୍ଛା ଏ ବାବଦରେ ଯେ ୟୁନାଇଟେଡ୍ ଷ୍ଟେଟ୍ସର ବି ପଛପଟରେ ହାତ ଥିଲା ଜର୍ମାନୀର ବି ଥିଲା ୱେଷ୍ଟ ଜର୍ମାନୀର କଥା ଆପଣ କହିଲେ ଡୋନାଲ୍ଡ ଟ୍ରମ୍ପ ଏ କଥା ସବୁ ବୁଝନ୍ତି?
He doesn't understand anything. Donald Trump doesn't have a memory, particularly no historical memory. I'll tell you why. Just to complete this. So it was Western countries tried to cultivate Iran and they succeeded. Kintu hela kon jo government to se support kale Iran that became very autocratic. And it was overthrown by a movement, the Saha. Again, Americans caused that. Semane Iranian prime minister he was ousted and the Saha was brought into power. Then there was this Islamic revolution. Saha was also an USA supported person. They corrupt that they were the Saha was overthrown in 1979 through this Islamic revolution. When the Islamists came to power, Ayatollah Ali Khomeini
70s
79 Iranian revolution is a landmark revolution in that sense. A revolution is in a modern day is bringing in a religious or theological state. That's why the Iranian revolution is interesting in its own way. So 79 when Islamists came to power in Iran, there was a permanent departure. In April 1980 formal relationship between Iran and the United States were permanently snapped. Aji parjanta there is no diplomatic relationship between Iran and the United States. So now you have to imagine that United States of America, they propped up Iran, they developed Iranians' nuclear capability. They did everything because it suited their interest at that point in time. Because entire Arab world ko jota Sunni dominated world, sithi gote good identity, Israel identity has to survive there. So they wanted a force which would protect Israel against the Arab
that's why Shia.
but it turned out to be that the Shias turned against the United States.
ସେଇଟା କେବେ ହେଲା କୋଉ
79.
79
79. 79, that's why I said that is the watershed moment. When the Islamists came there, they rather identified with the Islamic cause instead of identifying with the Western cause. So because their identity, they needed an identity. So ଯେତେବେଳେ ଆପଣ imagine କରନ୍ତୁ ଯେତେବେଳେ Saha rule against ରେ ଗୋଟେ identity articulated ହଉଛି, then it has to be articulated in contrast to what Saha was representing. And Saha was representing the Western culture. Saha was representing the cohabitation with Israel. So accepting
ସେ ସମୟରେ ପାରସ୍ୟରେ ମାନେ ପର୍ସିଆନ ଯୋଉମାନେ ଥିଲେ ଇରାନରେ ସେମାନେ ବହୁତ ମାନେ କୁହାଯାଏ ଯେ ବହୁତ ଓପନ ମାଇଣ୍ଡେଡ ଥିଲେ ତାଙ୍କର ଡ୍ରେସିଂ ସେନ୍ସ ବି ଅଲଗା ଥିଲା ମାନେ ପାଶ୍ଚାତ୍ୟ ସହିତ ସମ୍ବନ୍ଧ ରଖିକିରି ଥିଲା ପାଠ ବି ଭଲ ପଢୁଥିଲେ ଓପନ ଥିଲେ ବହୁତ ଥିଲେ
ସେଇ କଣ୍ଟ୍ରାଡିକ୍ସନଟା ଇରାନକୁ ଡିଫାଇନ୍ କରେ ଯେ ଇରାନ ଯଦିଓ socially is a theological state, but look at their level of development. Look at their modern education system, very modern. And I have many friends of Iranian friends, very modern outlook. Jadio semane hijab use karen, the women are very liberal and their outlook is as good as any Western.
And it's a perfect blend between.
It is a perfect blend. Perfect blend koi paribani. It's a kind of juxtaposition. Mane pakhabaki exist
koruchi.
No, pakhabaki exist koruchi. There is
modern outlook bhi ache, traditional belief bhi ache.
Right. Okay. That is how Iran is defined. Even India is defined that like that. Any border, jekonosi border country has to have education rahichi, joti interaction with other societies rahichi. It is bound to happen, and Iran is no exception. You know, Iranian development or Iran's rise as a power in West Asia, jota upon Middle East kujunde, we call it West Asia because we don't accept the American terminology.
Okay,
it's not Middle East to us; it is to our West. So West Asia, for them it is Middle East. Okay. So we don't.
So amesida correction bhi karta.
We Indian academics we never use the term Middle East. Only when we use it within quotes we use it American quotes, or else we say it West Asia. West Asia Iran rise ki cannot be prevented. You know, naturally. So ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ जो attempt United States and Israel ନଉଛନ୍ତି ତାର basic objective ଯଦିଓ ସେମାନେ କହୁଛନ୍ତି denuclearization ବା Iran କୁ to prevent Iran from acquiring nuclear weapon is the objective. That's not the real objective. Real objective ହେଉଛି ଯୋଉଟା ମୁଁ କହିଲି ଇସ୍ରାଏଲର ଯୋଉ existential threat ଟା perceive କରୁଛି ସେଇଟାକୁ ଗୋଟେ long term ପାଇଁ push back କରିବା.
Again ପ୍ରଶ୍ନ ସେୟା ଯେ मुझे तो भूल न केते ओवर 50 इस्लामिक स्टेट्स अछंती वर्ल्ड रे आपण जदी ईरान को भी हटै देले काल सकाळे पाकिस्तान पाखरे आणविक शक्ति अछि सीए मुंडो टेकिबो इज पैलेस्टाइनियन कॉज को तो सपोर्ट करथवा बहुत गुडे इस्लामिक रिजिम अछि
यस
तो केते जन को आपण हटेबे इट्स अनरियलिस्टिक
दैट इज द पॉइंट सही कथा हि त पडिछि जे व्हाई डोनाल्ड ट्रम्प इज सपोर्टिंग एन एजेंडा जोटा के अनरियलिस्टिक ମୁଁ ସେଇଥିପାଇଁ ବହୁତ ଥର ଡୋନାଲ୍ଡ ଟ୍ରମ୍ପକୁ କହିଛି ସେ ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ଯଦିଓ ସେ ପ୍ରେସିଡେଣ୍ଟ ସବୁଠାରୁ ଶକ୍ତିଶାଳୀ ଦେଶର ପ୍ରେସିଡେଣ୍ଟ ଇଜ୍ ଆକ୍ଟିଂ ଲାଇକ୍ ଏ ହାୟାର୍ଡ ଗୁନ୍ ଗୋଟେ ମର୍ସିନାରୀ ସୋଲଜର ଭଳିଆ ସେ କାମ କରୁଛନ୍ତି ଏମିତି ବି ସେ ଗୁଣ୍ଡାମିର ପରିଚୟ ତ ଦେଉଛନ୍ତି ଗୋଟେ ଲୋକକୁ କିଡନାପ୍ କରି ଆଣିବା ରବର୍ଟ ମଦୁରୋ ତାଙ୍କ ୱାଇଫ୍କି ଉଠେଇ ନେଇ ଆସିବା କିଡନାପ୍ କରିବା ଇଜ୍ ନଟ୍ ଏ ସିଭିଲାଇଜ୍ ଜେଣ୍ଟଲମ୍ୟାନ୍ସ ଆକ୍ଟିଭିଟି ଗ୍ରୀନଲ୍ୟାଣ୍ଡକୁ ମିଶେଇ ଦେବୁ ଆମ
अमेरिका पूर्व आ कोनोसी राष्ट्रपति एमती करथिले
नो यू टेल मी नोबडी दैट इज व्हाट इज दैट्स व्हाई आई से आ ता गुंडा में तांकर थिला ना बड़ाटिया गुंडा साइछंती बेंजामिन नेतन्याहू कर अच्छा
आपण तांको केमते राजनेता व्यवसायी गुंडा
राइट नाउ ही इज बिहेविंग लाइक ए खून देयर इज नो अदर टर्म काहे ना देखंतो जदि न्यूक्लियर ईरान ठारू न्यूक्लियर वेपन को दूर रखिबा जदि ऑब्जेक्टिव थिला according to his own declaration जो जून मासरे their B-2 bomber flew from United States and bombed the 3 nuclear facilities Donald Trump निजे कहलो we have obliterated their nuclear weapons program तापरे जो धराव कोन कारण रहला
किछ नै
there is no reason still you fought another war for a month starting February 28 कोन तर कारण थला तीनटा कारण बेसिकली regime change kind of Islamist regime they didn't want because Islamist regime कोनोसी scope दबनी for reconciliation with the United States or with Israel. Any other person, mate pachara jautla jetobale ketebale United States attack karibo around mid February. I always used to say, jo dina United States will find out an alternative arrangement to the current Islamic regime. ଆପଣ ସେଇଥିପାଇଁ ଦେଖୁଥିବେ ସେଇଦିନ ଇଏ ଆମେରିକା ଆଟାକ୍ କରିବେ ଆପଣ ସେଇଥିପାଇଁ ଦେଖୁଥିବେ ଡୋନାଲ୍ଡ ଟ୍ରମ୍ପ ଯେତେବେଳେ ବି କହୁଛନ୍ତି we are talking to a group who are different. We are talking to a group who are different.
କିଏ ଶାହାଙ୍କର ବଂଶଜ
Whatever. That is undefined now. ସେଇଟାକୁ ଟେଷ୍ଟ କରାଯାଉଥିଲା whether the current Shah Pahlavi can be that alternative. No, he didn't. He wasn't.
ସେ ବି ଆମେରିକାରେ ଥିଲେ
ଆମେରିକା
ଅଛନ୍ତି,
ଅଛନ୍ତି
ଏବେ
ଏବେ
ବି
ବି ଅଛନ୍ତି ତ ତାଙ୍କୁ ନେଇକି ଟିକେ ଚେଷ୍ଟା ଚାଲିଲା ବଟ୍ ଦ୍ୟାଟ୍ ଡିଡଣ୍ଟ ହୋଲ୍ଡ ଗ୍ରାଉଣ୍ଡ ତାପରେ ଗୋଟେ ଆଟେମ୍ପ ଚାଲିଲା ଟୁ ଗେଟ୍ ସମ୍ ଡିଫେକ୍ଟେଡ୍ IRGC ହାଇ ରାଙ୍କିଂ ଅଫିସିଆଲ୍ସ ଯୋଉମାନେ କି ଅଲ୍ଟରନେଟିଭ୍ ହେବେ
ମାନେ ଆପଣ ଗୋଟେ ଇସଲାମିକ ରିଜିମ୍ କୁ ଚେଞ୍ଜ କରି ଗୋଟେ ମିଲିଟାରୀ ରିଜିମ୍ କୁ ଆଣିବା ପାଇଁ
any other reason but they needed a reason ଯେହେତୁ ସେଗୁଡ଼ା ସବୁ ଫେଲ୍ ମାରିଲା
ସେ ତ ବେଶୀ ଭୟଙ୍କର ହେଇଯିବ
yes that is the point any reason ଯୋଉଟା ଆସିବ ସେଟା ଯଦି ଆମେରିକାନ କଣ୍ଟ୍ରୋଲରେ ରହିଲା ତ ଠିକ but they couldn't ensure that that regime will remain in American control. That is the reason they stopped short of pursuing a complete change of the regime. And at least ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ଏଇ realization ହଉଛି that a known devil is better than an unknown angel. At least ସେମାନେ ଜାଣିଛନ୍ତି who are the negotiators right now, what are the ତାଙ୍କର perspective କ'ଣ ତାଙ୍କ ସହିତ ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ at least Abbas Araghchi is a known figure ତାଙ୍କ ସହିତ negotiate କରାଯାଇପାରେ. Galibaf is a known figure ତାଙ୍କର stand point ଜଣା ଅଛି so USA can negotiate. And ଯଦି completely ଏମାନଙ୍କୁ delegitimize କରିଦେଉଛି United States ତାପରେ Iran will descend into again Iraq ଯୋଉଟା କି after 2003 ରେ ସଦାମ ହୁସେନକୁ ରିମୁଭ୍ କରିବା ପରେ ଯୋଉ chaosଟା ଇରାକରେ ହେଲା that kind of chaos.
ଦିଟା ପ୍ରଶ୍ନ ଏକ ଇରାକର କଥା ଆପଣ କହିଲେ ମୁଁ ସେଇଟାକୁ ବି ଟିକେ ମିଶେଇକିରି ଆପଣ କୁହନ୍ତୁ କ'ଣ ଟ୍ରମ୍ପ ଭାବିଦେଲେ ଇରାନକୁ ଇରାକ କ'ଣ ଟ୍ରମ୍ପ ଭାବିଦେଲେ ଇରାନକୁ ଭେନେଜୁଏଲା କି
ସେଇ କଥା ମୁଁ କହୁଥିଲି ଯେ ଆଉ ଟିକେ ପରେ କହିବି ବୋଲି ଯେ ଡୋନାଲ୍ଡ ଟ୍ରମ୍ପ ଡଜଣ୍ଟ ଅଣ୍ଡରଷ୍ଟାଣ୍ଡ ଏନିଥିଙ୍ଗ ତାଙ୍କର କୌଣସି ହିଷ୍ଟୋରିକାଲ ନଲେଜ ନାହିଁ ଡୋନାଲ୍ଡ ଟ୍ରମ୍ପ ଭୁଲିଗଲେ ଯେ ୟୁନାଇଟେଡ୍ ଷ୍ଟେଟ୍ସ ହେଉଛି ଏଭଳି ଗୋଟେ ମହାଶକ୍ତି ବିଶ୍ୱ ଇତିହାସରେ ଯେ କୌଣସି ଯୁଦ୍ଧ ଜିତିନି this particular fact Donald Trump forgot. Not only ଖାଲି ଇରାକ ନୁହେଁ
ହଲିଉଡ ମୁଭିଜରେ ବହୁତ
that's okay. Many operations I'll tell you in Vietnam they were there for 18 years. ତାପରେ ଯେତେବେଳେ ସେମାନେ 1973 ରେ ଛାଡ଼ିକିରି ଗଲେ they said to the Vietnamese କି ଭାଇ we defeated you in all battles. Actually ମୁଁ ଯାଇଛି ସେ କୁଚି ଟନେଲ I have seen the way the Vietnamese fought with the Americans. The Vietnamese general said yes I agree but we won the war. So that's the question. So जोड़ा अपने हॉलीवुड मूवी रे देखुछन those are operations. Yes, all operations Americans were successful, but they couldn't win a war. सी जो इराक कथा कहले इराक रे they didn't win the war. जहाँ से मन चाहिए इराक रे establish करे they couldn't.
Afghanistan they didn't.
Afghanistan they had to run. So they have never been successful. तेनो Donald Trump this was foolhardy, not bravery. This was foolhardy to believe that he can.
फेब्रुआरी 28 रु आज आमे मे रे अच्छे मे प्रथम सप्ताह रे या भितर डोनाल्ड ट्रम्प को जेते तांकर सोशल पोस्ट आसी छि ता धरे प्राय सब सोशल प्रति दीटा पोस्ट रे थरे तो से कहउछन जे आमे जीति जाइछु वी ऑलरेडी वन
हां बिकॉज़ तांकर वर्तमान तांको पे गोटे प्रॉब्लम होछि दैट ही हैज टू कैरी द रिपब्लिकन पॉलिटिकल एजेंडा जोटा की व्हिच विल बी टेस्टेड इन नवंबर मिड टर्म इलेक्शंस तेणु सी जो यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स को लेकर जाइछन्ति वार को तापे डोनाल्ड ट्रम्प का रेटिंग इज नाउ एट द नादिर इट्स इवन बिलो आई थिंक 27% बिलो 27% व्हिच हैज नेवर no American president had suffered that kind of low rating. Now he has to project a face that जोटी की United States has won the war एवं United States ईरान को कान धरी टेबल पाखे बसैला एवं JCPOA जोटा करा जायतला ड्यूरिंग बाराक ओबामा का टाइम रे टू एन्श्योर कि ईरान केबे भी न्यूक्लियर वेपन्स डेवलप करिवनी ता ठारो आहुरी बेटर गोटे अरेंजमेंट ही कुड इम्पोज ऑन ईरान एई तीनटा जिंस जदी से देखै परिबे ताहले he would say that okay my actions in Iran are justified and we have achieved the objective kahin na Iran sabule ko death to America and death to America can only be possible if Iran possesses a nuclear weapon. So I have prevented Iran from possessing a nuclear weapon. So I'm victorious. I won a war. I prevented Iran from going nuclear. So that's the victory.
बेसिकली जदि आम देखा जीन डोनाल्ड ट्रम्प व्यवसाय व्यवसाय कर जीवन जाक शेष आड़ को आसी से निर्वाचन रे पशिले डोनाल्ड ट्रम्प कौन चाहते
कहले परे से गोटे लिगासी चाहती
कहा चाहते
निज निज पे
केते दिन से बंच
I would see Donald Trump, like many,
मत लगे से निजर प्रशंसा ही चाहते
and yes, fame is that fruit which a dead man enjoys. So he wants to leave a legacy. That he did. सबुबले claim करूँ मैं 8टा युद्ध बंद कर दिली 9टा युद्ध बंद कर दिली
को युद्ध बंद करले से
he claims that India-Pakistan war, which I think he did. The few wars he has stopped, particularly India-Pakistan war. That जी जहाँ भी कहूँ, I will say that it is Donald Trump who intervened.
आपन लगे जे इंडिया पाकिस्तान रो ऑपरेशन सिंदूर जहाँ घटितला जो वार चलथिला ताकू से अटके देला
Of course, or else, well, that was an unnecessary war to begin with. India-Pakistan Sindur, Operation Sindur, and that entire thing was an unnecessary war. At tapare jo level ko pade jaichi, the fuse, which is very short now between India and Pakistan. Then केतेबेले भी किछि भी जाय पारे जो जगह रे रखा हैछि थ्रेशोल्ड टाको it's very dangerous.
सेति पे कोआ जाउचे से वार एपर्यंत सरी नहीं
Yes, that's what worries me. सेति पे म कहली fuse is very short. Anytime it might blow off.
किंतु पहलगाम इंसिडेंट पर हवार किछि आवश्यकता नथला जवाब देवार आवश्यकता नथला
जवाबटा दिया जीव in proportionate to your objective. What is your objective? कौन objective टा आपण चाहछन for future prevention of future attacks ना ता छडा कोन अटैक गोटे टेररिस्ट अटैक जदि गोटे कंट्री ऊपर हुए तार जवाबी हम कार्रवाईटा या हबा उचित
भारत तो कहितला जे हमें केवल अटैक करछु सेही जगह
दैट्स द पॉइंट से कथा हम कहूची जो अटैक करा गला नॉट ओनली अटैक तासे तो बहुत गुडे जिंस लाइक इंडस वाटर treaty suspension and there are many things. So that's why I say that we are not discussing that kind of sita auri gote alga topic he jo. Anyway, so Donald Trump jo claim karuchanti he wants to go down the history as one of American president, the greatest of American presidents. That's what is his objective. Lots of money, paisa abhav nahi. He wants to create a legacy. Ta chhada tar personal au kichh ambition and one cannot rule out business benefits. Kaina तांको कथा हिसाब रे वर्तमान वर्ल्ड मार्केट उठुची पडुची जदि से कहिबे जस्ट इमेजिन कहिबे जे ब्लॉकेड ऑन इरानियन पोर्ट आज बंद हला you will see the share markets will go up, oil companies will benefit, few companies who invested
घंटा घंटा रे बिलियन कमे दउ सीए एवं तांको कंपनी वा तांको प्रोत्साहन
so one cannot rule that out. So that those are the issues. किंतु primarily वर्तमान जोटा हैची से he is somehow totally gained over by Benjamin Netanyahu जोटा मु कहूची जे बडाटिया गुंडा सहिचंती Benjamin Netanyahu कर तेणु Benjamin Netanyahu जो ऑब्जेक्टिव ताकू रियलिस्टिकली अचीव करिया पई गोटे प्लान अछि प्लानटा कोन ना ईरान को इकोनॉमिकली एंड मिलिटरीली एते वीक कर दिया जाओ जे फॉर एटलीस्ट लेट्स से 50 इयर्स ईरान निजो गोडरे ठिया ही परिबनी कारण ईरान जदि निजो गोडरे ठिया न होई पारुची it will not be in a position to help those groups जो proxy groups जो माने कि इजराइल की एक्जिस्टेंशियल थ्रेट टा दोचंती सो सेही
सेटाटी हम दर्शकों को बुझे देन कोन प्रॉक्सी ग्रुप कोठी कोठी अछंती हमें बारंबार आलोचना ए बाबत रे करि सरचे आगुरु किंतु आउ टिके बुझे देन
प्रॉक्सी ग्रुप्स माने मु कहली जो पैलेस्टाइन लैंड को लागि कि जो रीजन रा अछि सीरिया एंटायरली वाज इरानियन प्रॉक्सी बा सीरियन जो असाद को रेजिम जतो जे पर्यंत थिला सीरिया रे entire Syria was supporting Palestinian cause and there are many splinter groups Shia groups particularly in Iraq जो माने कि
प्रॉक्सी माने जो हाउती हिजबुल्लाह
हमास these are the groups and many in Iraq जो माने को ईरान prop up करिछि तांको नर्चर करूछि तांको
फंडिंग करूछि सब
everything गोटे मात्र ऑब्जेक्टिव to espouse the Palestinian cause and to resist
but ए युद्ध रे हम आगुटे भी जिंस देखिले साउदी अरब यूएई जो गुड़िक मुस्लिम कंट्रीज सी भी अमेरिका सपोर्ट रे छिड़ा हबार एक कथा भी कहगला एमती किछि मीडिया रिपोर्ट्स भी आसिला जे जो 28 फेब्रुआरी रो डिसीजन हला अटैक रो से समय रे कुआडे ए आलोचना बेंजामिन नेतन्याहू डोनाल्ड ट्रम्प एवं साउदी अरब रो प्रिंस को सहित करिकरी डिसीजन फाइनल हेतिला जे आमे वी आर लॉन्चिंग एन अटैक इज दैट ट्रू और केमती मुस्लिम कंट्री गुडा को भी मुस्लिम को विरुद्ध रे गले ए अटैक को करिया पई
सेटा हूँ क्रिटिकल इश्यू गोटे माने सेटा को नहीं करी वर्तमान जो लिम्बो आम देखुचे जो स्टेलमेट देखुचे व्हाटएवर टैपरिंग ऑफ द in the intensity of the conflict is because of this Arab factor. Because Arab-Israel relationship has been very dynamic. Prathame there was severe opposition to Israel's existence. Then Benjamin Netanyahu was primarily responsible. No, before that even Yitzhak Rabin and others. Semane they slowly tried to mend relationship with the Arab world.
And
mediated by
सुताटा हला व्यवसाय
yes, व्यवसाय primarily. Yes, व्यवसाय primarily, but largely coordinated by the United States because United States रे region is बहुत interest. There is a concept Sir Olaf Caro, the former British foreign secretary, whales of power. माने whales of power means these oil whales. GSA whales को control कला, he is the powerful country. So United States always remained interested in that region. तेणु it was America रे interest थला to see a rapprochement between the Arab world and Israel. And जोटा कि सेवन बहुत दूर पर्यंत successful हेले. And again it is United States incentives. जो पे कि United States managed to establish major part of its central command's operational assets in these regions. ए जो Qatar, Bahrain, UAE, these are the areas जो कि bases रहे. Now imagine जितने bases American bases होची in that region, targets are basically two. One is Iran and another is if there is an Russian expansion or Chinese influence expansion. But the primary target for this Persian Gulf deployment, American deployment, is Iran. No mistakes. One shouldn't make any mistakes about it. So, no, American assets deployed for countering Iran. किंतु वर्तमान जो सिचुएशन टा आमे देखु जे सिचुएशन टा स्टेलमेट पोजीशन चलची ईरान ऊपर अटैक करिया पर डेफिनेटली गोटे ओपिनियन तो नवा दरकार अरब वर्ल्ड रे बिकॉज इट वाज वेरी एविडेंट कि ईरान को अटैक कले ईरान विल रिटालिएट एंड ईरान पाखरे सी रेंज रा मिसाइल नाही दैट ईरान कैन सेंड इट डायरेक्टली टू यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स
तो आज आमे 2 मे रे आलोचना करछे बाबत रे तो 2 मे रे जेबे पॉडकास्ट हम रिकॉर्ड करछे आज रो सिचुएशन कोन
ना गोटे सेटा जस्ट कंप्लीट करबे थला कि अरब वर्ल्ड रो कंसेंट इथ पे दरकार थला जे Iran will retaliate on the USA bases and USA bases are operating from the Arab world. Then Arab was to be prepared, was to be made prepared to accept, to endure those losses. Same thing अपन देखिए वर्तमान रोटे bill Saudi Arab UAE is sending a bill to United States to foot जो damages है. So say arrangement already थिला. तेनो that was the decision taken. से consultation टा same thing was required. कि yes we will foot you.
पण ये गोटे डील हेतिला जे आमे आपन सुरक्षा दबु आपन हम तेल देबे.
Of course that is the arrangement. Not only no सुरक्षा दबु Arab world जदियो ईरान Arab world रो conflict थिला.
तो अरब रो निजस्व सेना काहे कि नै.
See people the thing is it is जदियो ईरान and Arab world रो conflict थिला. It was not that existential which warranted a military build up by the Arab countries. Say it is taking advantage of that power vacuum. United States stepped in. Let's see, you have tomorrow conflict chalichi Iran se. Iran is trying to emerge as the leader of the Islamic world. How can you allow that? You are the larger Sunni section. You should be the leader. So they propped up,
so America सबोले गोटे smart boy in the classroom हवा पन चेष्टा करी करी.
That has been America's foreign policy since the time, at least since.
अतर gain कौन है ची अमेरिका?
देखो वर्तमान डोनाल्ड ट्रम्प is acting foolish. In the American foreign policy again, you can imagine that America is the number 1 country in the world, and it has exploited entire region. Sub region जोठी भी तार इंटरेस्ट दे हैव एक्सप्लॉइटेड द एंटायर रीजन.
अच्छा दीटा तुलनात्मक चित्र जेहेतु ए बाबत रे हम आलोचना करछ मो गोटे प्रश्न आपन कचितले आज डेट रे हम कोठी छिडा छै हम आलोचना करिया से बाबत रे जेहेतु एटा आपन कहिले गोटे बड़ इंटरेस्टिंग प्रश्न. गोटे समय थिला जेबे कुहा जाउथला जे ब्रिटिश ର ଯେତିକି ଯୋଉ ଯୋଉ ଅଞ୍ଚଳରେ ତାଙ୍କର
The
ଆଧିପତ୍ୟ
sun
ଅଛି
never,
ସେମାନେ
never
sun
sets on
sets
the
in।
British Empire.
ଆଜି ଗୋଟେ ସମୟ ଅଛି ଯୋଉଠି ଆମେରିକା ବହୁତ ଗୁଡେ ଘରେ କଳି ଲଗେଇ ବା ସିଏ କହୁଛି ଯେ ମୁଁ କଳି ସୁଝେଇ ଦଉଛି ବା ତାର ସମାଧାନର ରାସ୍ତା କରିଦଉଛି, କିନ୍ତୁ ଆମକୁ ଲାଗୁଛି କଳି ଲଗେଇ ଦଉଛି ସେ ବହୁତ ଗୁଡେ ଜାଗାରେ। ତା ଦେହରୁ ସର୍ଟ ଟର୍ମରେ ଲଙ୍ଗ ଟର୍ମରେ ଆମେରିକା ଆକ୍ଚୁଆଲି ଗେନ୍ କରିଛି ବୋଲି ଆପଣଙ୍କୁ ଲାଗେ?
No, no, ଦେଖନ୍ତୁ କଳି ଲଗେଇବାଟା is not a warranted foreign policy, କିନ୍ତୁ କେତେବେଳେ କେତେବେଳେ ଆମେରିକାନ ଫରେନ୍ ପଲିସି ଯୋଉଭଳି ଚାଲେ ଇଟ୍ ବିକମ୍ସ ଏସେନ୍ସିଆଲ। ମାନେ କାହିଁକିନା ଆମେରିକାନ ଫରେନ୍ ପଲିସିର ଦିଟା ଆସ୍ପେକ୍ଟ ଅଛି, ଦିଟା ନେଚର ଅଛି। ଗୋଟେକୁ କୁହାଯାଏ ଜେଫରସନିଆନ ଫରେନ୍ ପଲିସି, ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ କୁହାଯାଏ ୱିଲସନିଆନ ଫରେନ୍ ପଲିସି। ୱିଲସନିଆନ ଫରେନ୍ ପଲିସି ହେଉଛି କ'ଣ ନା, America being the number one country, in order to protect Pax Americana, that American hegemony all over the world, ସେମାନେ ବିଲିଭ୍ କରନ୍ତି ଯେ ଅଣ୍ଡର ୱିଲସନିଆନ ପଲିସି, ବେସିକାଲି ଡେମୋକ୍ରାଟିକ ପ୍ରେସିଡେଣ୍ଟ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଥାନ୍ତି, ଯେ wherever there is democracy is in threat, wherever there is human rights in threat, we will intervene there. Very selectively ସେଟାକୁ ୟୁଜ୍ କରାଯାଏ, that's a different issue, but ସେଇଟା ଗୋଟେ ଆସ୍ପେକ୍ଟ କି ସେମାନେ ଇଣ୍ଟରଭେନ୍ କରିବେ, they will show to the world କି ସେମାନେ ହେଉଛନ୍ତି protectors of democracy, they are the protectors of liberal world order, that is one. Second aspect ହେଉଛି which is the Jeffersonian foreign policy, there ଯୋଉଟାକୁ ଡୋନାଲ୍ଡ ଟ୍ରମ୍ପ ଏକଦମ ଅଲ୍ଟିମେଟଲି ମାନେ କ୍ଲାସିକାଲି ରିପ୍ରେଜେଣ୍ଟ କରନ୍ତି, ସେଟା ହେଉଛି କ'ଣ ନା, we will interfere and intervene wherever American business interest is there.
Okay.
So these are the two, but ultimately it is intervention. Ultimately it is interference. So
ବ୍ରିଟିଶ ଏମ୍ପାୟାର ଆଉ ଆମେରିକାର ଏ ଯୋଉ ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନର ଯୋଉ ପଲିସି ଅଛି, ଏ ଦିଟାର ତୁଳନାତ୍ମକ ଚିତ୍ର ଆପଣ
one is colonialism, another is neo-colonialism. That's pure and simple. The Americans wanted to establish it through the economic means. जो ଗୋଟେ ଏଭଳି ଗୋଟେ ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ world system Americans have developed, America-centric world system. 36% of world economy is controlled by United States of America. So say simple fact puts them in the center of the global politics, economy, everything. Then they need to maintain that. In order to maintain that, କହିଲି ଏଇ ଦିଟା ଯୋଉ ତାଙ୍କର approach, ଦିଟା ହିଁ ତାଙ୍କର approach, that whether either we would intervene to promote democracy and liberal world order, liberal political order, or we will intervene to protect our business interest. Donald Trump classically represents the second. So ଯୋଉଠି ବି business interest ରହିଛି ଆମେରିକାର, he doesn't mind interfering. Classic example Venezuela. Venezuela what is କୁହନ୍ତୁ ତ କ'ଣ ଇଣ୍ଟରେଷ୍ଟ ଥାଇପାରେ ଗୋଟେ ଦେଶର ପ୍ରେସିଡେଣ୍ଟକୁ ଆଉ ତାଙ୍କ ୱାଇଫ୍କୁ ଉଠେଇ ନେଇଆସିବାର, ତାପରେ ଆଉ କନଫ୍ଲିକ୍ଟ ଅଛି କି? What was the reason? Reason was କି oil ତ ବହୁତ ଆଗରୁ ଡେଭଲପ ହେଇଥିଲା, ସେ American companies were there in Venezuela. Same money, because being the neighboring country and technologically superior country, naturally they rushed in first to tap Venezuelan oil. ତାପରେ they overexploited, ଯେମିତି ଯାହା ଆମେ ଜାଣିଛୁ କ୍ୟାପିଟାଲିଜିମର ଯେ କ୍ୟାରେକ୍ଟରିଷ୍ଟିକ୍ ଟୁ overexploit resources. Overexploitation ଚାଲିଲା, it created dissentment in public. So a communist government came into power in 1999. The communist government came to power in 99. They nationalized all the oil wells and all the assets, so the American companies lost out. So that Donald Trump needed to regain. जो एते दिन धरी ସେମାନେ ଅପେକ୍ଷା କରୁଥିଲେ, they tried politically to remove this government, to bring in their own government, ପାରିଲେନି. So ultimately Donald Trump's patience lost out. He picked up this man and made an arrangement with the vice president. Now they are having all the oils from Venezuela.
ଚାନ୍ଦି
So that is what. So Donald Trump classically represents that.
Okay, ଏବେ ପୁଣି ସେଇ କ୍ୱେଶ୍ଚନ କୁ ଆସିବେ। ଆମେ ଆଜି 2 ମେରେ ଏ ଯୁଦ୍ଧ କୋଉ ପରିସ୍ଥିତିରେ ଅଛି ବୋଲି କହିବା?
ଯୁଦ୍ଧ happily that the military aspect, the violent aspect of the war, ଯୋଉଟା ଆମେ
ବାଡିଆ ଭଙ୍ଗାରୁଜା ମିସାଇଲ ଆଟାକ୍
28 ଫେବୃଆରୀରୁ ଆମେ ଯୋଉଟା ଦେଖୁଥିଲୁ, that is no longer there thanks to the Pakistani, the Islamabad talk. ମୋର ମନେ ଅଛି, I think ଆପଣଙ୍କ ଟିଭିରୁ ସବୁ ଟିଭିରୁ ବି କଲ୍ ଯାଇଥିଲା, ଯେତେବେଳେ JD Vance ସକାଳୁ ସକାଳୁ କହିଦେଇ ଗଲେ that the talk is a failure. We couldn't arrive at any agreement. କୌଣସି agreement ହେଇପାରିଲାନି. ସମସ୍ତେ କହିଲେ that Islamabad is a failure, but I was categorical in saying that it's a huge success. कहीं अपन देखो सही इस्लामाबाद इट्स थैंक्स टू दैट इस्लामाबाद टॉक कि आज पर्यंत नो मिलिटरी एक्टिविटी सिंस देन तेणु कॉम्प्लेक्स इश्यूज एंड वेरी वेरी यू नो टफ सिचुएशन ए सिचुएशन ने
बट गोटे ग्रहणीयता भी होनी जे पाकिस्तान कौन से क्षमता अच्छी पाकिस्तान कौन से सक्षम जे अमेरिका एवं ईरान भलिया देश को एकाठी गोटे टेबुल ले बसे कथा हबार ना पाकिस्तान को गोटे मोहरा सजे प्रकृति रे कथबार्ता किए आउ जने करे
it is declared. There is nothing hidden in this. It Americans use Pakistan. So the Pakistanis are well aware of it and ସେମାନେ faithfully ସେ ରୋଲ୍ ଟାକୁ କରୁଛନ୍ତି. Iran also knows this. କାରଣ ଯୋଉ ପ୍ରଥମେ ଯୋଉ ଡିକ୍ଲାରେସନ ଟା ତାଙ୍କର
ପାକିସ୍ତାନ କଣ ଫେଥଫୁଲି କିଛି ଜିନିଷ କରିପାରେ
କରୁଛି that's why I'm happy at least for change. ନାଇଁ ଏଇଟା this needs little explanation. ଅନ୍ୟ କୌଣସି ଦେଶ ଏଇ ରୋଲ୍ ଟା ପ୍ଲେ କରିପାରିବନି ଯୋଉଟା ପାକିସ୍ତାନ କରୁଛି. କାରଣ ଏଠି ଦେଖନ୍ତୁ ମୁଁ ଯୋଉ କହୁଥିଲି ଯେ ଡୋନାଲ୍ଡ ଟ୍ରମ୍ପ ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ସାଜିଛନ୍ତି ଭଡ଼ାଟିଆ ଗୁଣ୍ଡା କାହାର ବେଞ୍ଜାମିନ୍ ନେତାନ୍ୟାହୁଙ୍କର କିନ୍ତୁ ଇରାନ ସହିତ ଯଦି କିଛି ବି ନେଗୋସିଏସନ କରିବା ପାଇଁ ଯାଆନ୍ତି ଡୋନାଲ୍ଡ ଟ୍ରମ୍ପ he has to sidetrack Benjamin Netanyahu. Because Benjamin Netanyahu's presence by influence will not lead to any negotiation. In fact, जो fast round जो चले था 21 घंटा negotiation, rumors true or false, but to a great extent it has been accepted by the Americans कि Benjamin Netanyahu influenced the decision making. तेणु Benjamin Netanyahu needed to be sidetracked. ଆଉ गोटिए मात्र country अच्छी in this region जे कि सही रोल टा प्ले करि परिबो दैट इज पाकिस्तान बिकॉज पाकिस्तान सहित इजराइल रो कोनोसी डिप्लोमेटिक रिलेशनशिप नहीं आउ जो
पाकिस्तान पासपोर्ट रे भी लिखा था जे नॉट वैलिड फॉर इजराइल
जो छोटो मिस्चिफ टा करा गला बाय यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स ऑफ अमेरिका बेसिकली जोट कि कुहा गला दैट लेबनान इज पार्ट ऑफ ceasefire yes then परे कुहा गला no it was not part of say जो mischief टा करा गला that only Pakistan could have done it जे Pakistan कहला जे yes it was agreed that Lebanon was part of it कारण Israel cannot do anything to Pakistan तांके भीतर कोनोसी संपर्क नहीं so सेही पई ही Pakistan was chosen to be the mediator how कोनोसी country is not in a position and Pakistan acceptability to Iran is high. The Iranians accept Pakistan because Iran's you can say passive support. Pakistan is a passive supporter of Iran. Iranian regime's agenda Pakistan doesn't bother. You know, Iranians have faith on Pakistan and America used Pakistan for that purpose because that was the only country which could have played that role. How the Pakistanis are playing that role very well, faithfully, under dictates of President Donald Trump, of course. I don't mind that.
ये जो प्रथमे गोटे जो ट्वीट आस्तिला सेवाज शरीफ कर जो थरे से
that's what I'm saying. So it was used by Pakistan was used by the Americans and they don't mind accepting that in private even. जो Donald Trump openly भी कह दी चंदी बहुत तरह that role they don't mind.
But again talks समय हमें देखले जे राजनेता कम आसिम मुनीर the so called field marshal बहुत समय रे
so it is faithfully playing a role. It's not Pakistan.
So who is exactly playing the role? Shehbaz Sharif or Asim Munir?
Doesn't matter. It's Americans who are playing the role. Americans चाहुचंती कि आपण ईरान को आनी करी बसांतो टेबल नेगोशिएटिंग टेबल कोन कहउचंती ईरान अथॉरिटीज बिकॉज़ देयर इज नो अदर माने
पाकिस्तान नो गोटे रही आछे घर माउसी से घर पिउसी होतला तो से ता घर को व्यवहार करा जाउची चर्चा
बस दैट्स yes that is the only thing and they are doing it faithfully at least they are succeeding till date they are still there and जेहेतु अमेरिका चाहूँ बिकॉज आउ अमेरिका पाखे बर्तमान मिलिटरी ऑप्शन इज नॉट ए वायबल ऑप्शन बर्तमान पुणी टू गो बैक टू ए मिलिटरी कन्फ्रंटेशन विथ ईरान इज नॉट वायबल पॉलिटिकली भी वायबल नुहे कहीं बर्तमान देखो तो गत काली गोटे नुआ डिबेट आरंभ होगा यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स वेदर डोनाल्ड ट्रम्प शुड हैव नोटिफाइड द कांग्रेस बिकॉज 60 days ended on fast May ताकू नहीं गोटे डिबेट चली डोनाल्ड ट्रम्प को वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग paid Hexeth and Donald Trump no we don't need to report कहीं ना ceasefire is there so ceasefire जो दिन तो हला से दिन तो time stops whereas the constitution says 60 days from the date you used military force that is 28th February so now the Americans
but Israel और अमेरिका जेतबेले डिसीजन नउथले जे अटैक करियार अछि इजराइल को किस समय पय जे साइडलाइन करिया अमेरिका खास करी जे जो डिसीजन जे तांक तरफ निया गला जे हम अटैक करिवा से समय से केमती भूली गले जे देयर इज स्ट्रेट ऑफ हॉर्मुज, देयर इज पर्शियन गल्फ, गल्फ ऑफ ओमान, मझिरे गोटे एमती जगह अच्छी जोटा को चोक कर दिया जाई पारे। ईरान पाखरे से कैपेबिलिटी अच्छी ना, ईरान को भाभी नेला जे ईरान पाखरे से कैपेबिलिटी नाही, जदि आमे आयतुल्लाह अली खामेनी को हटे दोछु ताले किछि गोटे बड़ परिवर्तन हेइ जिवो। ए स्ट्रेट ऑफ हॉर्मुज रो पॉइंट, इट्स अ वेरी इंपोर्टेंट पॉइंट जोटा केमती ए पूरा स्ट्रेटजी रे अमेरिका मिस करी गला ना, प्रकृति रे मिस कला नै। ईरान पाखरे एते पावर अछि बोली अमेरिका के भाभी नतला।
No, nothing. None of these are correct. American generals समस्ते जानी that Iran ऊपर अटैक कले, the very first thing Iran will do, जो धरणर अटैक करागला ईरान ऊपर से धरणर अटैक करागले, one of the first things Iran will do, it will choke Strait of Hormuz. तांकर जेते वार गेम सबुतर all the generals were at one with this. तेणु no general माने जितने important, nobody supported this particular military action of Donald Trump. सेथ में all the generals were shunted out. GA भी Donald Trump को oppose कला, they were shunted out. So Dan Cain supported Donald Trump. Yes, we can do it. ताले कौन टा plan हला तांकर जहाँ अपन कोइले दी तीन टा जिनसे मिसी करी हला. One that they were thinking, सेवन चिंता करते ले कि Ayatollah Ali Khomeini के मारे दिले, then we can have some defectors from IRGC. So tanko through we will control, we will run the show. So we can dictate them terms. So Strait of Hormuz will never be closed. Second was that first attempt जो attack कला United States. Israel जदियो Ayatollah Ali Khomeini को बासभवन पर attack कला, America पूरा all over the world जोड़ जोड़ी Iranian naval presence थिला, naval asset थिला, ताकू destroy कला. Naval asset को destroy करिवा instantly was, the objective was not to allow Iran to have enough capability to choke Strait of Hormuz.
Okay.
तापरे there was an attempt by expectation थिला Donald Trump कर कि other countries like NATO members and the regional powers would join in ensuring militarily keeping Strait of Hormuz open. Militarily Strait of Hormuz can be kept open. It once chesta kara jayatla 1982 re. Americans had done this, but it had required 150 ships to be present. Yes, to be present there to escort effectively. But even then, that is not 100% foolproof. No. But ei guda tini charita options thila. Kintu everybody had advised against attacking Iran. There was no reason. There was no imminent reason except fulfilling Israel's objective कि ईरान को इतने पक्षों को नहीं आ जाओ एवं तांगल लीडरशिप की इतने incapacitated कर दिया जाओ that they will not be in a position.
ईरान ने भी decision क्यों नहीं?
Yes, their government is in place. सही कथा अब्बास आरागची कहले what are the Ayatollah, that is the interesting thing about Iran one needs to understand. Iran re decision making is highly institutionalized. It's not personalized. Even जतवले भी Ayatollah Ali Khomeini thile, he was not taking all the decisions. He remained the theological head of the supreme leader. That's true. But foreign policy, economic policies, there were ministries like any other country has. सही कथा अब्बास आरागची कहले, America wants to talk to Iran. Iran has a president. Iran has a foreign minister. If they are there, they are not dead. So they are taking the decision. Now, whether Ayatollah Mustafa Khomeini is alive, is incapacitated, doesn't matter. The day Ayatollah Ali Khomeini died, the first attack Ayatollah Ali Khomeini died, immediately the coordinated attacks chalila Iran tarafuru. So to say that by removing Ayatollah Ali Khomeini or few IRGC officials or few leadership, you will cause a collapse of Iranian political system is not a realistic assumption. It's totally wrong reading of military affairs. That's why Donald Trump, I say that Donald Trump doesn't understand anything. ତେଣୁ ଆଜି ବି ଯେତେବେଳେ ଜର୍ମାନ ଚାନ୍ସେଲର ଫ୍ରେଡରିକ୍ ମର୍ଜ କହିଲେ ଯେ Iran has humiliated America. So look how Donald Trump is reacting. He's saying that I will impose, tariff on. He has already withdraw 30,000 soldiers thila Germany re. Situ withdraw kari 5,000 soldiers ରଖୁଛନ୍ତି. And ଯିଏ ବି ତାଙ୍କ କଥାକୁ ନ ମାନୁଛି ବା ଯିଏ ବି ତାଙ୍କ ସ୍ୱର ସହିତ ସ୍ୱର ନ ମିଳୁଛି जी भी न कहूँ कि अमेरिकार भिक्ट्री होइछि बोली ताको जस्ट आसिया पूर्व देखुଥିଲି डोनाल्ड ट्रम्प हैज सेड दैट इट इज ट्रेजनस and it is a matter of treason जदि तमे न कहूछ कि अमेरिका जीतीछि then you are causing treason
माने
so
he is actually acting like a autocratic leader in a democratic country.
yes that absolutely that is strange thankfully she वर्तमान autocracy तांकर निज देश लोक ऊपर देखे ना but in international affairs she is trying to do that नले ग्रीनलैंड को नहीं जीवी समस्त टैरिफ लगेबी गोटे प्रेसिडेंट को उठे नहीं आसबी ईरान ऊपर जिते से कहले फॉर फन विल अटैक फ्यू मोर राउंड्स फॉर फन सो एभलिया जदि जो लोक कथबार्ता करि पारे आई कांट कॉल हिम ए रेस्पॉन्सिबल वर्ल्ड लीडर ही इज ए लुनाटिक
ओके नेटो जेतबेले तयारी हेतिला नेटोर उद्देश्य या थिला जे आमे परस्पर गोटे गोष्ठी आकार रे परस्पर सुरक्षा पई काम करिया प्रॉस्पेरिटी पाई एवं वर्ल्ड रे पीस रखिया पाई ये सब जिनस ता भितरे जो ऑब्जेक्टिव गुडाक थिला मु सेबे पढुतली जेबे डोनाल्ड ट्रम्प बारंबार करी कहता जे नेटो आसु आगु को आसु जेमते आपण कहले जे मिलिटरीली किछ करिया पाई हरमुज रे आवश्यकता थिला अलगा कंट्री गुडा करे खास कर यूरोपियन कंट्री गुडा
एक्सपेक्टेशन थिला
हां एक्सपेक्टेशन थिला काहे के असले नेकी
because it is not a NATO's war. NATO's objective is very clear that as a common security entity, it will come into play ଯେତେବେଳେ ବି NATO country ଭିତରୁ କାହା ଉପରେ ବି attack ହୁଏ then they will invoke Article 5, Charter 5, जोटा whatever they call it, Article 5. जे जोटी कि any attack on any NATO country will be construed as an attack on entire NATO. But there was no attack.
नेटो कंट्री ऊपर नुहे नेटो कंट्री द्वारा अटैक करा जाय
So
that's difference.
That is the difference. That is what the French president, everybody, even German chancellor, everybody said, Spain, Italy. It is a war of choice of United States of America or Donald Trump. It's not a NATO's compulsion. NATO Article 5 has been invoked only once. So Donald Trump also should know that NATO पे European countries केते करिसेंती बा अमेरिका केते करिसे NATO रो European countries have not got much benefit. Let me tell you, जो ततन कहगला जे by being member of NATO you will be protected by United States of America from the attacks emanating from Russia, the then Soviet Union, then Russia. Kintu European countries have done a lot for America under this NATO framework. Kahi Article 5 only once has been invoked. Kebe na jetole America upar 9/11 attack hala in 2001. Only once. So NATO military exercise, active military participation in any war has been only once. It is for America's cause, not for Europeans' cause. So Donald Trump जो कहते हैं आमे यूरोप पे बहुत गोलू बर्तमान आमर दरकार Europeans are not coming within NATO. He is wrong. He doesn't read history. History doesn't matter to him. So सी जहाँ कहते सेटा ही सत्य बोली
नेटो भी स्मार्ट बॉय हे के रही अमेरिका से निज काम पई सबले यूटिलाइज कर दो अन्य बेले को
yes obviously that अन्य बेले कोन यार America doesn't understand anybody's compulsions. कौन सी देशर compulsions it doesn't wish to understand. Only thing is American interest, and American interest defined by its leader. Bartaman American interest is being defined by a person. I don't know. I can't call him a leader. Whatever, he is the man there.
अच्छा तो रशिया चाइना रो रोल ए भितरे टिके ए पूरा कॉन्फ्लिक्ट भितरे सेटा एते सामना को आसीनी बा आसिले भी से टिके हेजी हेकरी अछि सो कौन रशिया और चाइना रो रोल आ भितर किछ अछि कि नाही जदी नाही कौन रहिबा उचित थिला कि कौन से मानकर किछ गोटे बड़ रोल बा बिगर ना रशिया वाज हैप्पी बिकॉज तातल तो जाउछ मिडिल ईस्ट रे क्राइसिस हेले रशियन तेल रो डिमांड भी बढ़ियो
No, but Russia पर भी तो sanction, Russian oil को भी क्यों पे कोड दिया जाउछ. That's the point. America waiver दउची
नाही जण व्यापारी लीडर काली सकाळे खोली भी दे परंती
काली सकाळ तो बहुत किछ हे पारे डोनाल्ड ट्रम्प जीवा पर तो बहुत किछ हे पारे सो एंटायर थिंग्स विल चेंज तो सेटा किछ किंतु आपण जो पचले जे रशिया एवं चाइना रो रोल रहबा उचित कि नै इंटरनेशनल पॉलिटिक्स हाउस शुड कोन हवा उचित कोन हवा अनुचित ता ऊपर न था कोन होउछ आ काई होउछ तो आपनर प्रश्न है जे रशिया एवं चाइना एपर्यंत चुप कहीं अछंती व्हाई आर दे नॉट
एक्चुअली चुप अछंती
माने एटलीस्ट दैट यू आर नॉट हियरिंग एनीथिंग मु सुनी पड़छि जा सुने बट यू एटलीस्ट यू आर सेइंग दैट दे आर नॉट विजिबल ताका एक्शन एपर्यंत विजिबल होन रीजन इज very simple. Russia in itself is in a conflict. So not much interest to show in this part of the world right now. Kintu Russian involvement can never be ruled out because a region America is a far off country. Russia has been involved in this region. Apan janithibe 1979 ଯେତେବେଳେ Iranian revolution होची, that is the time Russia is invading Afghanistan. Russia is invading 10 years Russia stayed in Afghanistan. Why? Because it also wants control in this region. And Eurasian Union Russia has created. Asian and European countries it is creating. So Russia needs to ensure its own future and its own frontiers, both economically and in terms of security. So Russia cannot take its eyes off this region. But at the same time, Russia will not risk personal involvement. It's not strategically.
Say position भी नहीं
रही. Position नहीं था पर you can't say Russia is not in that.
नहीं बहुत लोग कहते हैं यूक्रेन सहित जो युद्ध लड़ी
that's a misnomer. Listen, Second World War रे जेतेबेले Pearl Harbor hela, America was on a back foot. Entire all over the world, it was Russia which carried the Allied forces flag. Russian capacity, military capacity, please don't underestimate. Russia is a country entirely surviving on export of military hardware. Oil is, like chains to what they supply, in terms of military hardware. So, Russian military capability, at least conventional war fighting capability, Russian capability is very, very high. Russia might, even if it is in a position, it is not in its strategic interest to entangle in this region.
आवश्यक नहीं था.
कारण वर्तमान यदि entangled हबो, it has to take on the Arab, resentment against it, which Russia doesn't want. Why would Russia mess up in this situation? It needs to maintain its relationship with Iran because Iran is opposing United States. जहाँ दरकार जति की strategic, leverage रखिवा पाई. Jeti support that is the Russian that they're giving it. Thank nuclear weapon program be Russians were managing. The technologies for their missile program comes from Russia and from China through Pakistan. So these two countries are remaining the back.
China ro kichh role achi.
Yes, China is now the primary supplier of money. देखो जो Strait of Hormuz रे Iran जो लगौची जो toll collect करिया पे कहूची, it wants it in Chinese yuan. So it doesn't want it in American dollar, so that the Americans can control it. So China has already been there in some form or other, and China is the largest buyer of Iranian oil. 90% of Iranian oil, China alone buys it. So it contributes to Iran's economic capability. And more a paper while I was a fellow in University of Hull. Entire Pakistani nuclear program, as we know, it's a Chinese program, nuclear weapons program. And we also know Iranian nuclear program is also a Pakistani supported nuclear program. So not only the Khali nuclear program, the missile program is also can be linked to the Chinese missile program. It is only Chinese military technology, cheap Chinese military technology, which enabled Iran to develop a missile, they demonstrated. Donald Trump claimed that we have eliminated Iran's missile capability. They fired a missile at Indian Ocean Diego Garcia, which is 4,000 kilometers away from Iran. So that kind of technology, obviously the Americans haven't given it. And Iran, laying their hands on that technology indigenously, at this point, imagine it difficult. Unless there is Chinese, technological support, it wouldn't have been possible. More sampurna, based on my research, it is the Chinese who have helped them develop those technologies. So the Chinese are watching what is happening there. and जोठी दरकार पड़ुची the Chinese are uttering their words. जेतबेले ब्लॉकेड करागला प्रथम ब्लॉकेड जोटा डोनाल्ड ट्रम्प डिक्लेयर करथिले कि यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स ऑफ अमेरिका विल स्टॉप एवरी शिप that passes through Strait of Hormuz by paying toll to Iran.
Okay.
But the Chinese said no, not doing. You can't do that. The Chinese started, murmuring. How can you do that? That means, imagine the Chinese ship, go to Chinese ship, Bahrain ru, Telani, Iran could toll the is coming to India. If the Americans stop that, what would happen? Can the Chinese sit quiet? Can the Indians sit quiet? So Donald Trump was to be, Donald Trump को sentence of moderate करिया दरकार थला. Immediately CENTCOM, Central Command America, they came out with a clarification. कि ना ना हमें सबू ship की अटके बुनी, only those ships जो उड़ा Iranian port रस्ते हमें सेटे अटके. So when the Chinese uttered the word, the American policy changed. So they are there. किंतु it doesn't warrant. वर्तमान situation doesn't warrant their involvement. But you can't say ମୁଁ ଏଇଟା କହିପାରିବିନି ବେଶୀ ଦିନ ପାଇଁ. And imagine ଆଉ ଯଦି ମାସେ ଏଭଳି ବ୍ଲକେଡ୍ ଆଉ ହର୍ମୁଜ କ୍ଲୋଜ୍ ଚାଲେ ଯୋଉ ଇଫେକ୍ଟ ହବ ଅନ୍ ୱାର୍ଲଡ ଇକୋନୋମି I don't think China, Russia and other countries can sit quiet.
ମାନେ ଆପଣ କହୁଛନ୍ତି ଗୋଟେ
Even
ତୃତୀୟ
India.
ବିଶ୍ୱଯୁଦ୍ଧ ଆଡକୁ ଇଏ ଯାଇପାରେ ପସିବିଲିଟି ଅଛି
ନାଇଁ ଶୁଣନ୍ତୁ ବିଶ୍ୱଯୁଦ୍ଧ କହିଲେ don't always imagine that big powers fighting, that is world war. In terms of effect, are we any lesser than World War III or any number of World War you can? କାହିଁକିନା ଦେଖନ୍ତୁ out of the 7 declared nuclear weapon countries, except China, all are at war. Except China, all are at war in some form or other. The NATO countries are supporting Ukraine. Russia is at war with Ukraine. India, Pakistan just had a war with each other. America is involved with Iran. Only and other, yes, North Korea. These two countries are not active war, but North Korea, South Korea are always ready. So that is the situation that pancha nuclear weapon countries are at war, and in terms of effect, entire world is affected. Strait of Hormuz blockade, anything that happens there, entire world is affected, and destructions and other things. What is happening in Lebanon and all that, it's a continuous affair. So where is peace there? The entire world is now experiencing war. So we are in the midst of war. We may not call it world war because आपण गोटे global power direct युद्ध देखुना माने you don't see a war between China and America or Russia and America, but in all other senses we are in the midst of a war. इथे आउ गोटे जिनस important जिनस आपण को ये नवा पे पड़िबो that the present kind of conflict जोटा कि which is different from the other kinds of conflict, other eras conflict, or global conflict. जोटा कि आगुरु global conflicts were basically between states, were between states and states. गोटे state आ गोटे state against a lot of them. But here there is a complex has developed because of the involvement of non-state actors, like the Houthis. ଆପଣ Iran and America ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ war କରୁଛନ୍ତି, but Houthis can be activated to block Red Sea. Okay. So they are not a state actor. So role of Hezbollah is not a state actor, but it's a very powerful actor. So or there are certain organizations in Iraq जो माने कि तांकर निजर agenda रही. Or you talk of in Turkey, in that region, Iran से तो जो मान लड़ुचंदी, the Kurdish population, they are non-state actors. So there are many non-state actors who जो माने कि एक complex टाको आहुरी intensify कर दूचें. जो बर्तमान जो global conflict है चली ची, it is not just between state and state. It is non-state actors भी रही. ISIS, Al-Qaeda, these are now factors जो गुड़ा को पे interstate wars भी होची. कारण किसी नथला अमेरिका रो अफगानिस्तान ने पछे अटैक करिवार role of Al-Qaeda, or America had to attack Afghanistan. So is a role of non-state actors, very powerful non-state actors, having various kinds of agenda, Islamist agenda, other kinds of agenda. ISIS, it wants to establish Islamic Emirates all over the world. They are also cause of conflict. So ये जो present nature of conflict is different from the other two world wars you had seen. ସେଇଥିପାଇଁ ଆପଣଙ୍କୁ ଲାଗୁଛି ଯେ we are not in world war, we are much better off. No, we are worse off than at least second world war. Theaters were defined, ei ଜାଗାରେ war ହଉଛି. Now we don't know where the effect would be felt next. Tomorrow where the effect would be felt, I don't know. କାଲି ଆଜି ସକାଳେ
ଆପଣ କହୁଛନ୍ତି ୱାର୍ଲଡ ୱାର ଚାଲିଛି.
of course it is world war in all senses. You look at if you ଆପଣ ଯଦି ଆଜି death counts ଯଦି ଯୋଉ non state actors conflict ରୁ ଯଦି ନିଅନ୍ତି, ନାଇଜେରିଆରେ ଯାହା ହଉଛି କି other African countries ରେ ନାଇଜେରିଆରେ ବୋକୋ ହାରାମ ହଉ ବା I think last week they kidnapped 100 some people, girls from some orphanage. So ଆପଣ ଯଦି violence କୁ ଦେଖିବେ, it is now all over the world, not perpetuated by the state to call it that kind of war. It is being perpetrated by non-state organizations, but the effect is same. The entire world is suffering.
ଭାରତ କୋଉଠି ଛିଡା ହେଇଛି? ଭାରତର କ'ଣ ଆଭିମୁଖ୍ୟ? ଭାରତ କ'ଣ କରିପାରିଥାନ୍ତା, କ'ଣ କରୁଛି, ଆଗକୁ କ'ଣ କରିବ?
ଶୁଣନ୍ତୁ, ଏଇ କନଫ୍ଲିକ୍ଟ ଯୋଉ ଚାଲିଛି ମିଡଲ ଇଷ୍ଟ ୱେଷ୍ଟ ଏସିଆ କନଫ୍ଲିକ୍ଟ, ଏଇଟା ଇଟ୍ ଇଜ୍ ଏ ମ୍ୟାଟର ଅଫ୍ କନସର୍ନ ଟୁ ଇଣ୍ଡିଆ. କାହିଁକି ଏଇଟା ମ୍ୟାଟର ଅଫ୍ କନସର୍ନ ଟୁ ଇଣ୍ଡିଆ? ମୁଁ ଖାଲି ଗୋଟେ ହିଷ୍ଟୋରିକାଲ ଆଣ୍ଟିସିଡେଣ୍ଟ ଦେବି. ଏଇ ଆମ ମେମୋରିରେ ଏଇ ପଶ୍ଚିମ ଏସିଆ ବା ୱେଷ୍ଟ ଏସିଆ ଯାହାକୁ ଆମେ କହୁଛୁ, ଏଇଟା ପ୍ରଥମେ ଇଟ୍ ବିକେମ୍ ଟ୍ରବଲ୍ଡ ଇନ୍ ଦ ଇୟର 1991, ଫାଷ୍ଟ ଗଲ୍ଫ ୱାର୍. ଆଉ ୟୁ ଇମାଜିନ୍ the impact was so severe on Indian economy that ame default karigulu on our balance of payment, and tadru udhuriva pai amku we had to load 2-3 aeroplanes of gold and take it to London bank. Sethi ame bandha pakekiri we had to bail us out. Kaingina Gulf war chaliva jogu Gulf ru oil and energy India ku asi parlani. Seuta ame gote lesson nelu jouthi pai amar jo entire reliance thila on West Asia, entire reliance, 100% reliance thila West Asia. We diversified to Africa, we diversified to Central Asia, we diversified to some extent to Southeast Asia. Okay, but our reliance still on West Asia cannot be eliminated, cannot be brought
to geographical region.
Yes, cannot be brought to zero. So we might not face the impact of that intensity जो टाइम 1991 ने face कर दिलू, but certainly we will face the pressure. I'm already faced. I think day before yesterday only you told me that the price of gas has
900 ଟଙ୍କା ଗୋଟେ ଦିନରେ ବଢିଲା, 900 ଟଙ୍କାରୁ ଅଧିକ.
ଆଜି ଭାବନ୍ତୁ, tomorrow, day after tomorrow, the election results will be out. Petrol and diesel prices have not been raised because of these elections. Now the elections are over. Today is the repolling jod jatila. You might expect a rise in the petrol price, diesel price tomorrow. So it is going to affect you. So khali je world war bomb ta padile hi, you will be affected. That's not motte seta lagane. If you are affected in any means, you are affected by the war, and we are affected by this war. Globally, everybody is affected. Kali I was reading a report that ଯଦି ବାହାରିନ ଆଉ ଏଇ ଜାଗାରୁ ଯଦି ଫର୍ଟିଲାଇଜର୍ସ ନ ଆସେ, ବିକଜ ଫର୍ଟିଲାଇଜର୍ସ ପାଇଁ ଦ୍ୟାଟ୍ ଇଜ୍ ଦ source, ଯଦି ନ ଆସେ billions of meals mouth will go hungry. So won't you call that a global impact of this war? So what would you call it? It's a world.
ଭାରତର stand କ'ଣ?
Yes, ଭାରତର stand, unfortunately, being a student of international politics and operating from India, Bharat's stand was clear to me earlier. But Bartaman Bharat's stand is little, kind of, I don't know, it's little unclear. Earlier, we had, ame sabubale Palestinian cause ko support korthulu. Ei jo entire kondolale jodi ame kohiba, where did we stand? We always stood by the cause of the Palestinians. Karana not only we, entire United Nations, there are more than 100 resolutions passed kara jayichi that Palestine state should be created. Only country that has opposed it is Israel, and at times it has been supported by the Americans. So we were age-old supporters of Palestinian cause. Jaha penki, we had the support of the entire Islamic world. It was our requirement. Forget about whatever humanitarian cause and that I can bring in. Chhadi diyantu. It was our strategic requirement because ଆମେ ଯେତେବେଳେ create ହେଲୁ as an independent modern state in 1947, unfortunately we were separated to create our estranged brother in the form of Pakistan, which was an Islamic country. Now ଆମେ ଯେତେବେଳେ exist କରିବା ପାଇଁ ଚେଷ୍ଟା କରୁଛୁ and ଆମଠାରୁ religious line ରେ ଗୋଟେ Islamic country create କରାଯାଇଛି. So and the entire region bordering that Pakistan ସବୁ Islamic. So ଆମର ଗୋଟେ strategic requirement ଥିଲା ମାନେ ଗୋଟେ it was a compulsion that we have to do something that these Islamic countries do not gang up against us. Man, apart from the humanitarian consideration that we all, I mean, genuinely सबले चाहूँ जे Palestinian भी तांका identity पांतु. ता छड़ा मु कहूँ there was a strategic compulsion for supporting the Palestinian cause. Because just because we were supporting the Palestinian cause, Pakistan in United Nations could never succeed in passing a resolution against India. Because the entire Islamic world never thought of alienating India because India was standing by the Islamic cause. So that continued till long time. Only in 2017 we saw a break. Jyoti our Prime Minister visited Israel for the first time. So from there, India's stand has become little undefined. That what do we support? And if I go with the recent जो visit Tilai Juda Purburu, incidentally, again our Prime Minister visited. Our city जो fatherland, motherland जो Bonhami dekhele with Israel. State has not gone down well with Iran, particularly, or the Islamic world. They are now looking at India with a little bit of suspicion. Or else, जो question अपन करूँ जे Pakistan role नहीं करे as a mediator. Why not India? तो लोटे ये चलता ला जे why not India? Pakistan नहीं गला उटे ना India नहीं परला नहीं. As I said, Pakistan could have been the country which played that role. जो role टा play कला पाए India करी पर ना था. किंतु India राव से position भी नहीं. Iran doesn't trust India that much. जैसे कि trust आगुरु करू दिला. By this shift in position, जे हमें totally entirely we are now siding. हमें बर्तमान internationally at least. We are seen.
But Islamic world भी तो फाटा अछि.
अच्छी yes, अच्छी. I'm not denying that.
तो इंडिया जदि इजराइल सहित जाउछि, इंडिया जदि अरब कंट्री मानक सहित जाउछि, इंडिया जदि
Israel
कंट्री को कैटर करि पारुछि.
India जदि इजराइल सहित जाउछि, that is not necessarily it is going with Arab world. Do अपन इजराइल एवं अरब को सेम कर दियंतु नहीं. They have their differences. जो रैपर्स में चलछि से रैपर्स.
नहीं इंडिया यदि साइमल्टेनियसली दी जण से
you can't run with the hare and hunt with the hound. You know that kind of relationship. So that's not possible. Say the India's position is slightly now under the shroud. The Iranians do not trust.
But India रो भलो partner Israel हे परिबनी ए region.
भलो partner
भलो in the sense because of the technological advancement they have.
You अपन वर्तमान देखिले जे no matter how advanced you are, no matter technologically or militarily, your safety cannot be ensured only by military means. It's not possible. आमे पहलगाम देखिलु, आमे उरी देखिलु, आमे we have seen it all. So ultimately it has to be ensured through arrangements where जोटी की threat उड़ा emerging करिवानी, emerging. So अपन जदि militant approach नेबे जे you will जेमती मोसाद को यूज करी इजराइल को जामे सब समझते माने we can militarily tackle everybody. हिजबुल्लाह को हमें निपात करी पारे ना एपर्जेंट. They have not been 6 वर्ष continuously लड़ी करी they couldn't do it. 18 वर्ष लड़ी करी वियतनाम रे अमेरिका पारे नहीं. In Afghanistan, United States 2001 ରୁ 2021 20 ବର୍ଷ ପାରିଲାନି. In Iraq you couldn't do it. So militarily अपन जदि it's a limited success you can achieve, but larger strategic it would be a failure because siding with Israel से तो side करी जावा माने permanently alienating the Islamic world, and we require the Islamic world. Not only for our खाली हमारा strategic interest in United Nations नुहे, we need them as our partner for our economic development even. गोटे खाली just data देवी. India foreign currency reserve is around $235 billion. यार nearly 80% comes from remittances by Indians working in Gulf in these Islamic countries. That's a reality. You can't change that reality overnight. Now imagine the entire Islamic world goes against you. Or for this war, this Islamic region, the West Asia टा एमिति गोटे सिचुएशन रहला कि सिटी ऑयल रिलेटेड कौन सी एक्टिविटी भी पारलानी दे बिकेम ऑल ऑफ ए सडन इकोनॉमिकली इनएक्टिव ये जो रेमिटेंसेस आस्तला व्हाट वुड हैपन टू दैट इंडियन इकोनॉमी विल कोलैप्स तापर ऐड टू दैट कि सेही लोक माने जदी आपन जदी इवैक्यूएट करिया पे पड़े बर्तन आउरी वार जदी चलियो यू हैव टू इवैक्यूएट पीपल भाबन तो व्हाट वुड यू डू विथ दोस पॉपुलेशन सो आमर रिक्वायरमेंट्स रही वी हैव टू बी very calculated आमर एग्जैक्ट इंटरेस्ट कौन आमे सेटा कैलकुलेट करबा दरकार फैशन रे जाई कर लाभ नहीं माने इजराइल हमु टेक्नोलॉजी दबा ना
फॉरेन रिलेशनशिप रे कुआ जाय जे दी नारे पाद दवा को पड़े दीटा नारे भारत एबे कोन सेबळा गोटे सिचुएशन रे फसी गला
दिस इज रॉन्ग दी नारे पाद दवा पे पड़े नहीं
माने आपण रशिया सहित भलो संपर्क रखछन्ते अमेरिका सहित भलो
ता माने नो जे दी नारे पाद दवा पे पड़े ता माने होची जोटे की नेहरू डिफाइंड नॉन अलाइनमेंट पॉलिसी जोटे की इंडिया एंड many other countries, 77 countries, now it is much more, still relevant. India is the leader of it. It is that we are standing where we are. You want to come to us, you come to us on our terms. Our requirement, our reach. Ame tamat kondal re posya pe chaunu. It's not dinar padadava. It's standing at where we want to stand. Ame amo jaga rechu. तमर आम सहित इंटरेस्ट अच्छी यू कम एंड इंटरेक्ट विथ अस ऑन आवर टर्म्स तमर आम सहित इंटरेस्ट अच्छी अमेरिकार इंटरेस्ट अच्छी रशियार इंटरेस्ट वी आर रेडी आमको आमर इंटरेस्ट को संभाळिबार अछि सो तमर जदी इफ यू वांट टू गेन समथिंग फ्रॉम अस फाइन वी कैन डू दैट बिट if America wants to gain something from us we don't have any problem provided we must be getting some benefit ame tomo kondal re pasya pe jam that is what nona it's not dinar padadava it's remaining firm on your own feet not spread your feet here and there jota ki bartaman is little
किंतु बेले बेले पक्षभुक्त भी हवा पे पड़े ना
नहीं पक्षभुक्त अपन ऑन प्रिंसिपल नॉन अलाइनमेंट माने नुहे जे आमे कोनोसी पक्ष नबानी नॉन अलाइनमेंट माने तांकर जो पीस टाइम रो कंदल रे विल नॉट बी पार्ट जदि दरकार पड़े पक्ष नबा पे हमें पक्ष नहीं छु इट्स नॉट दैट कि हम पक्ष नहीं नो जेतबेले श्रीलंका रे इशू हला इट वाज इंडिया व्हिच स्टेप्ड इन यूनिवर्सिटी हमर रिक्वायरमेंट हला हमर स्ट्रेटजी हम बैकयार्ड रे किछि इशू हबो विल टेक ऑब्वियसली साइड and our neutrality is world celebrated. Entire Indo-China conflict mediate kariya pe Nehru was invited, India was invited. We have done many things from our non-aligned position. Jehetu our non-aligned position now somehow stands at least worldwide perceived to have been compromised. Seithi pe India's role right now is not that important in the global politics.
गोटे लास्ट क्वेश्चन कौन वर्ल्ड ऑर्डर बहुत बड़ गोटे स्केल ले चेंज होची कौन नाटो भांगिबो कौन जो ऑर्डर आमे आगुर देखथिले भारत रशिया र संपर्क पाकिस्तान रो अन्य मानक सहित संपर्क नेटो कंट्रीज को भितर संपर्क ए जो युद्ध पर एवं खास करी अमेरिका रे किछि गोष्ठी एवं लोक मानक भितर एबे गोटे विद्रोह भी आसलानी जे एमती डिसीजन काहे कि अमेरिका निया जाउची जे आम लोक मरुछंती आम पैसा खर्च होउची व्हाई वी आर ऑलवेज एट वॉर विथ समबडी और एल्स आमे करी चलचे तो गोटे कोन बड़ परिवर्तन होउची कि समय भितर गोटे वर्ल्ड ऑर्डर रे चेंज आसुची कि
वर्ल्ड ऑर्डर तो डेफिनेटली चेंज आसुची एंड नेक्स्ट वर्ल्ड ऑर्डर जोटा होची इट नॉट नेसेसरीली गोटे बाइपोलर वर्ल्ड ऑर्डर जोटा हम कोल्ड वॉर टाइम रे देखुतलु गोटे पटरे अमेरिका गोटे पटरे सोवियत यूनियन से भली बाइपोलर वर्ल्ड ऑर्डर हबो बोली
मल्टीपल लीडर्स विल बी
यस देयर विल बी मल्टीपल जोटा को मॉर्टन काप्लान करजंती गोटे इनकम्प्लीट न्यूक्लियर डिफ्यूजन सिस्टम जोटा की देयर विल बी मेनी कंट्रीज हैविंग न्यूक्लियर वेपन्स एंड just by dint of possessing nuclear weapon they will have a little amount of aura like North Korea economically nothing but still it's considered as a power because it has nuclear weapons. Similarly Israel whatever this small country kete ba tar population but it has an undeclared nuclear weapon and that military power. Nuclear weapon is a symbol of power, you can use that. So there will be many countries in the India, China, similarly in every region there will be countries जो माने regional ambitions को pursue करिया पे चाहिए. So you will see much more regional complex जोड़ा अमिताभ आचार्य बारी बुझा कहते regional security complexes जेमते हमर गोटे South Asian security complex अछि West Asian security complex अछि साउथ ईस्ट एशियन सिक्यूरिटी कॉम्प्लेक्स अच्छी ईस्ट एशियन सिक्यूरिटी कॉम्प्लेक्स अच्छी जो चाइना जापान दे आर सो यूरोपियन सिक्यूरिटी वेस्टर्न यूरोपियन सिक्यूरिटी कॉम्प्लेक्स ईस्टर्न यूरोपियन सिक्यूरिटी कॉम्प्लेक्स सो ये जो सिक्यूरिटी कॉम्प्लेक्स गुड़ाक जो डायनामिज्म यू नो व्हिच ऑपरेट्स से गुड़ा ग्लॉस्ड हो जाउतला बाय दिस you know super power rivalry jehetu bartan super power rivalry will not be there because or there will be many powers which jo mane claim karibe them semane they are also major powers in their own rights so we will see many more regional conflicts or complexes operating on their own and big powers America and Russia and China semane definitely intervene karibe in those complexes according to their own interest and तार भितर we will see manifestations of peace and war whatever in the future
जेहेतु आपण से कथाटा कहले मु आ गोटे क्वेश्चन एक्सटेंड करी पचार दउची यूनाइटेड नेशंस ताले कोन करछु इज इट ए मिथ की जो विश्व शांति गोटे मिथ की ये केबे प्रतिष्ठा हे परिबन
well being an optimist why would I say केबे हे परिबो नाही माने न हे परिवार कथा कि
द्वितीय विश्व युद्ध रु ए पर्यंत आमे ताकु तयारी करि पारलेनी की
ता माने न जे हम करि परिबानी okay because I can't bartman can you say it can never happen see position ne bhi hame na ho it's there is a concept you know anarchy is what states make of it aji jo international anarchy hame dekhu chu it is the states that have made it out ke taku specify kar dele the leaders that have made it like bartman no juddha as we say I mean these ones probably will agree ki Donald Trump has started this war for no reason with Iran so if war can be started peace can be established. It requires the will
leaders.
It requires willpower and an agenda. And continuously following.
तारा गोटे जगह को आसीबे एवं तांको भीतर गोटे समन्वय जदि रहबो ताले हेई पारे.
Why not? I'm saying जदि if you can create war, you can create peace. All it requires is the agenda has to change.
अच्छा डोनाल्ड ट्रम्प कहले जे मु सभ्यताटा गोटे सभ्यता को नष्ट कर दो माने कोन कोन से इशारा दउतले जे परमाणु भी पके दी पारे ए आजिका डेट रे 2026-27 रे भी आगु जाय कि कोन परमाणु भी कोन से देश ऊपर अप्लाई करि पारे
सुनंदु
आपन बोलले सेटा गोटे सिंबल ऑफ पावर बस कीप इट दैट गोटे साइड रे रखी
शुड बी बट so long as that weapon exists more MPhil dissertation तार ऊपर लिखितली why weapons are there why are they not being eliminated so long as that weapon exists its chance of usage cannot be ruled out okay the only insurance or only assurance we can get by eliminating them comprehensively from the face of the earth जो दिन पर्यंत सही कमिटमेंट सब वर्ल्ड लीडर्स न देइछंती the chance of its usage remains unfortunately and it बढ़ी जाए when people of unstable mind come to control
blood pressure अधिका थाए केतळे किछ डिसीजन नै जाय पारी
so that is the risk of nuclear weapons being so सेथ बेन जो डोनाल्ड ट्रम्प जो कहउछंती आज कहछन जे lunatics bunch of lunatics cannot have nuclear weapons you know I can
who are you
can we trust you with nuclear weapons that's the point
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद डॉक्टर मिश्रा आपण आसिले आमे एते विस्तृत भाव रे आलोचना कले आ आशा करछि जे हमर दर्शक माने बहुत गुडे कॉन्फ्लिक्ट बाबत रे एवं पूरा जो I will say West Asia not Middle East West Asia conflict बाबत रे वे स्पष्टता तांको भीतर पळे आस्थिबो एवं वर्तमान सिचुएशन कोन आगु को ये आहुरी खराब होची ना भलो होची आमे ऑप्टिमिस्टिक रहया जेमती डॉक्टर मिश्रा कहले जे वार जदि आरंभ होई परछि ताले पीस भी काहे के आरंभ हेई परिबन बेले हम भाबिबा जे पीस भी दिना दिने पॉसिबल हबो एवं समस्त एकाठी आसी किछि निर्दिष्ट निष्पत्ति रे पहुंची पारिबे ओटी पॉडकास्ट रे हम सहित थिले वैदेशिक व्यापार विशेषज्ञ डॉक्टर विनोद मिश्र।